Today I have you guys some exclusive Halo Infinite insight and details from an Insider 343 content creator meeting that I am so grateful that I was invited to. They discussed their plans with flighting, with the launch of the game, potentially missing core features, what happens if you grapple a flying grunt, and where is Fireteam Osiris in Halo Infinite. They also talked about difficulty, Halo 3-like gameplay, how old was the demo, and just tons of more details to break down. But before we get started, guys, be sure to smash that like button blue, as every like helps boost the video up the YouTube algorithm and gets this video out to other Halo fans. Thanks so much. Let's jump into it. This video is supported by Audible. Snag yourself a free Halo audiobook right down in the description below. So big thanks to 343 Industries and Unischeck for inviting me along with other Halo YouTube content creators to a private meeting right after the big Xbox game showcase reveal to tell us a bit more about Halo Infinite's campaign and answer some of our questions. I can't share the audio or visuals from this event. Virtually everything else I have been given permission to talk about, so that's what we're going to summarize today. So the meeting opened up with a couple developers talking over the campaign demo. They confirmed that it's about roughly halfway through the campaign, and that this interaction between Master Chief and the pilot was intentionally done to be a bit opposite from the Discover Hope, that there's a little bit of tension here, and that the pilot is an important character and is in a contrasted position from Master Chief. And Chief protects humanity at every chance possible, and the pilot is the most human character ever created in Halo, and a normal person placed in this crazy situation. The pilot is sort of like an insert for us fans to kind of react to Master Chief if we were, I guess, there in real life, and how a normal person would react, which is what the pilot kind of represents. This opening gameplay moment is a perfect moment for 343 to express the spiritual reboot part of Halo Infinite, resembling Halo 1's second mission on Installation 04, named Halo. They want to bring back the emotions of Halo CE, bring back the mystery, hope, and wonder to create something that's familiar but different. The TAC map, they call it, gives us an idea at the size and scale and objectives found in Halo Infinite. It's the most open and expansive world in Halo Infinite and several times larger than Halo 4 and Halo 5. There's a lot of choice and freedom here. Adding new sandbox elements is exciting for 343, such as the drop wall and grapple shot. The brutes are a fan favorite, and with the Banished here now, they're much more, quote, threatening than the Covenant, which is certainly an interesting statement, right? This may mean that the campaign will be more difficult in some aspects and maybe more strategy, but that's just my personal speculation. They also confirmed to upgrade the audio engine to create a more acoustic system and leverage streaming power with the Xbox Series X to basically surround the player with a much more realistic audio experience. The grapple shot opens up transversal gameplay opportunities to encounter enemy strongholds and helps to change your playstyle in combat moment to moment. They say, of course, there's a full sandbox with other items for players to discover and use on the battlefield, and the game can run up to 4K 60 frames per second and has 10 times the processing power per pixel than Halo 5 did. Now, regarding the end segment with the new Escrom Banished brute, who is confirmed as the commander, the head honcho of the forces on the ring, 343 explains the following, is that this brute here is excited to go up against the Master Chief, who is trying to take the ring back. This is the brute's personal declaration and goal, to hunt down Chief. The fidelity they've been able to achieve in Halo Infinite was not possible in Halo 5, specifically the facial movement, and there's a lot of new rendering techniques they have here, but also the power of the Xbox Series X has helped them out a lot. So at the end of the commentary video, there was like a question and answers portion that me and other content creators got to ask questions, and they actually answered one of mine, which is so freaking funny. But Paul, the associative creative director, was there. Chris Lee, the studio head of Halo Infinite, was there, and Jerry was also there, the head of design at 343. So they started up the session and answered this first question. Based on the demo, is the Halo Infinite gameplay a combination of Halo 3 with the different equipment and Halo 5 with the Spartan abilities? Jerry answered and said that it's a spiritual reboot, so they're trying to bring in a flavor of Halo all around and bring Legacy forward. He said you shouldn't pin it as like Halo 3 or Halo 5 like gameplay, but rather a blend of all of the legacy of Halo. So here's my question. I am so grateful they answered it, but I probably would have killed me if I didn't know, but The question was, what happens if you grapple a flying grunt? They said, not only is the player able to take advantage of the sandbox, but the AI themselves behave differently in the sandbox as well. As we learn how to use the environment as playing Master Chief within the sandbox, opponents will also use the environment to their advantage. For example, if we throw fusion coils, maybe the AI will throw a suicide grunt back at us. But they did actually answer the question head on. They said if you shoot your grappling hook at a flying grunt, you will go flying into the grunt. Now, this wasn't mentioned at all, but I have to wonder now, what happens if you grapple towards a grunt and then cancel it and then fly somewhere else on the map? Seems like a really cool thing that could happen that could be quite funny to watch and play back in some funny clips later in the future. Here's another question. How old is this gameplay from a technical standpoint? They said that the game is very much in development still, and that the gameplay demo was captured, quote, a little while ago. Not sure what that means, but they did say they have a lot of great work going on with the team, and they are still cranking out and polishing the game as launch gets closer. Now, what I'm about to say wasn't mentioned in the 343 meeting, but I feel like I should point it out, is that the short gameplay trailer, the 1 minute long one that's a little bit more about the story, looks a lot better visually, like the lighting and everything, the textures just look better than they did in the demo. And I'm not quite sure why they didn't just use this build, but I have to point that out that this demo is honestly probably somewhere from 8 to 12 months old. Next question, with the Banished being in the game and their clear history with Halo Wars, how does the story of Halo Wars 2 play into the story of Halo Infinite? 343 said, Halo Infinite is designed to be a starting point for any player. You don't need to know anything from Halo Wars 2 to understand what is going on. They're here because they're so interesting. But also, they said, this is really cool, they're sort of a spiritual reboot of the Covenant and a new voice, the Brute, Escream or whatever. As the story goes on, we learn what they're doing here on the Halo ring, and that there's a new voice here, the Brute, and as we play throughout the game, we learn what the Banished plans are for this Halo ring and what they're doing here exactly. Next question, what is the status of couch co-op for Halo Infinite? They said it's on, and very clearly said that 4-player co-op is confirmed. I was worried that it was only 2-player split screen, but no, 4-player is confirmed. Next question, MCC flighting has been incredible and beneficial. Will flighting still happen before launch? Well, they basically say that the complexities of 343 working at home now, their focus of community engagement has essentially shrunk, that the scope for it is just smaller now, as they can't do as much. They've had some confidential groups playtesting pre-builds of Halo Infinite for a couple years now, but for a larger scale, they're still working out a plan for flighting, and that flighting is important for 343 and it won't stop when the game releases. They still want to do it for all the experiences in the game as the release goes, and just by all the wording in this meeting, honestly, it makes me think that they're going to have DLC that involves flighting, or maybe even free DLC, but nonetheless flighting involved with it. Will Halo Infinite launch with any core features missing like with Halo 5? They said they want people to see with Halo Infinite that there are a lot more details coming soon in the coming months, but this game is a platform. They are going to continue telling the story with a beginning, middle, and end, and in the game, this is a foundation to tell more stories about Master Chief and his adventures after Halo Infinite's base game releases, and to grow their experiences. So if you notice there, they didn't actually answer this question directly, and I think it's led to some people thinking, some rumors around the community that multiplayer is going to not be there at launch. And that was a rumor that actually existed about 2 years ago, and I guess it's just resurfaced, but this time Brian actually shut that down on Twitter immediately. But what we do know from what 343 said during the meeting is that campaign is confirmed to release complete, and also the game is a foundation for the future of Chief's stories, probably DLC or the sequel and so on, but also with what's on Twitter, yeah, multiplayer will be there at launch. What are the main advantages you have using the Slipspace engine compared to the past Halo engine? Well, 343 answered this question a bit like this. They said they envision the game to basically have these huge, expansive, open gameplay experiences, kind of fulfilling that first promise that was set out in Halo 1 when leaving the crashed escape pod. But specifically, when riding up the elevator, all the vista, the mountains you see specifically here in this moment, you can go there in the campaign. The player has the freedom to choose where to explore, how to unlock and discover secrets. They have also been very invested in bringing it across multiple platforms, and each are optimal for specific devices, and that the Xbox delivery system helps this happen. There is a lot of immersion and new experiences here for players. Here's another question that was asked: how will difficulty work in Halo Infinite? Is it selected at a main menu like traditional Halo games or on a per mission basis? Well, 343 said it's selected at the main menu. Players get to decide where to go, where they want to go on a difficulty, whether with friends or solo. You'll be able to choose for sure. What I'm about to say isn't confirmed or said in the chat specifically, but I think it was actually implied that during co-op, you can play a higher difficulty like heroic, while a friend or friends play normal difficulty. What has happened to Team Osiris, and what role, if any, does the Halo 5 cast play in this story, or will we even see them at all? 343 says, first of all, the whole point of Halo Infinite is getting back to Chief by himself on a ring, stopping an unstoppable force. The events that led up to Halo Infinite are all true. There are events that happen before Chief is in space. Some things you will find out in the campaign, and some things you will discover after Halo Infinite. Now, this next part isn't confirmed or talked about, and it may be a reach, but this got me thinking, maybe Locke and Fireteam Osiris died or got injured or maybe lost somewhere on the ring during or after the battle on Zeta Halo, much like how Master Chief was almost defeated as well. What was the biggest goal of Halo Infinite right after the development of Halo 5 ended? Well, they said when they came off Halo 5, they wanted to take stock in everything they learned in Halo 4 and 5. They wanted to also look across Bungie's games too and bring the most iconic parts and put them in Halo Infinite. We hear a lot about that in this chat, basically just bringing in the best of Halo and kind of putting it in this really familiar but also different fashion and form. But anyway, they say listening to the community and definitely focusing on Master Chief, they looked at the split screen, co-op, refining the gameplay experience they have to build something that represents, to 343, a love letter to Halo, and also building slip space that embraces what makes Halo special and making it open and expansive, filling players with a sense of mystery, wonder, and awe. Another question here, when was it decided to make a new engine, or was it always a decision made from the start of development? Well, 343 answered this by saying they always wanted to go after something at this scale. They need to chart their course for the next 10 years on this engine, and also build a platform. There we hear platform again, to grow on. So they needed to make big investments and additions to help 343 develop Halo, and also that is just fun to experience. 343 also mentioned that there's a lot of subtleties in this demo, for example, like the player stopping and looking around. This is something that they intentionally wanted to generate in the player, that basically we get to choose how we move and or, getting into a vehicle or getting out of the vehicle and going down or up paths and so on. But the scavenging story is also an important part in the gameplay and is magical and have even more choices from moment to moment. To recap, 4-player co-op split screen is confirmed. The Banished are spiritual reboot of the Covenant, and Halo Infinite may or may not be missing features at launch, but we do know the multiplayer will be there, and that this game is basically a platform for post-launch content. And there's a lot more details coming soon on this specific subject. The demo shown here is old, not recent. If you grapple at a flying grunt, you'll fly towards it, like all enemies you grapple. Gameplay is a blend of all Halos, and this story is about Chief retaking the ring and stopping the Banished from their evil plan. Also, this brute is in charge of the Banished here on this ring. Guys, be sure to snag yourself that free Halo audiobook. Quick sign up, link down in the description. I want to give a big thanks to you guys for all the support and watching all the videos throughout the content release of Halo Infinite, and also big thanks to 343 Industries for inviting me to this content creator private meeting thing. It was really fun to ask 343 questions and kind of actually get them answered. And while there are a few things that have me concerned about what we've seen so far, I think 343 Industries knows what they're doing this time around. Certainly it is risky, but I am overall pretty excited and hyped about this whole thing. Guys, be sure to subscribe here on the channel for lots more of Halo content, news, lore, and entertainment. I'll catch you in the next one very soon. Still lots of videos in production right now. So I'll see you soon, and peace out, guys. Stay safe out there.